"Hey, little one, are you all right?" Marcus Lane's voice echoed gently as he stepped out of his Cadillac Escalade and spotted a small figure hunched beside the old air pump at the edge of the gas station. The sun was low over Baton Rouge, spilling orange light across the cracked pavement. The station itself looked forgotten, peeling paint, flickering sign, the silence broken only by the soft clicking of a busted fan. She didn't answer. The girl sat curled into herself, knees drawn tight, clutching a faded canvas bag to her chest with both arms. Her shoulders shook, not violently but in that quiet, exhausted way that came after too many hours of trying not to cry. Marcus took a careful step forward. She didn't move. "I'm Marcus," he said, lowering his voice. "I was just driving by, saw you here, thought maybe you could use some help." Still nothing. Then very slowly, she lifted her face. Tear tracks streaked her dusty cheeks. Her eyes were wide, red, and exhausted. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail that had nearly come undone, and her oversized t-shirt hung limply off one shoulder. "You got a name?" he asked, keeping his tone light. A whisper came after a pause. "Maya." "That's a beautiful name," Marcus said gently. "Are you here by yourself, Maya?" Her lips trembled. She didn't speak, but her arms clutched the bag tighter. Something inside shifted and made a dull, muffled clink. Marcus crouched beside her, taking care not to move too quickly. "Is someone coming for you?" She shook her head slowly. "Where's your mom, sweetheart?" That broke her. Her face crumpled as a sob burst out of her chest. Her mouth opened, but no words came, just air and pain and silence wrapped into one. She began to shake uncontrollably, as if the question itself had pulled a plug loose inside her. The bag slipped slightly from her arms, revealing a ceramic urn, simple, dark gray, its engraved lid taped shut, as if by a child's hands. Marcus inhaled sharply. The girl wrapped her arms around it, rocking forward. "She didn't wake up. She didn't wake up," she whispered again and again through stuttering breaths. "She said I had to keep going, that somebody would help." Stories like Maya's remind us that even in the darkest moments, kindness can light the way. If this touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments. If you believe in compassion, in hope, in second chances, hit that like button and make sure to subscribe for more stories that matter. Because sometimes, a story isn't just told, it's felt. Marcus felt the air thicken around them. This wasn't just a lost child. This was grief, unfiltered and raw, sitting barefoot on concrete, and it was more than Marcus had been ready for. But there was no turning away now. All right, Maya," he said softly, his voice cracking at the edges. "You don't have to say anything else right now. I'm here. You're safe." She nodded, face buried in the urn. He stood and looked around. No cars, no employees, no one else. Just the late-day sun burning gold across an empty sky. "I live just 10 minutes from here," he said. "My wife's home. We've got dinner on the stove, clean beds, and no questions tonight. You come rest. That's all." Maya looked up, eyes glassy but alert. "You won't take her?" "Your mama stays with you," he said without hesitation. "That bag doesn't leave your side unless you say so. Deal?" She hesitated. Then, after what felt like a full minute, she gave a single, small nod. He reached out his hand. She didn't take it, but she stood, holding the urn and the bag close to her chest. They walked in silence to the car. Marcus's house sat tucked behind a line of sycamores at the edge of a quiet subdivision. It wasn't grand, not by billionaire standards, but it was warm, lived in, with flower boxes, porch lights, and the scent of rosemary from the kitchen. As they pulled into the driveway, the front door opened. A woman in her late 40s stepped out, drying her hands on a kitchen towel. Her eyes softened when she saw the child. "Marcus?" she asked, already stepping toward them. "This is Maya," Marcus said simply. "She'll be staying with us tonight." Without hesitation, his wife Cleric knelt. "Hi there, sweetheart," she said, her voice smooth and kind. "I made chicken and mashed potatoes." "You hungry?" Maya didn't speak, but her eyes flicked toward the house. "And I've got some extra pajamas if you want to wash up after." The girl gave a slow nod. Inside, the lights glowed soft and yellow. The couch had blankets folded neatly over its back. A photo of Marcus and Clara from their college days sat on the mantel. It was the kind of house where quiet laughter still lived. where a girl who had lost everything might find enough warmth to breathe again. Later that evening, after Maya had eaten 2 helpings in near silence and fallen asleep, curled on the guest room bedurn still in her arms, Clara turned to Marcus, voice hushed. "Where did you find her?" "By the pump," he said, sitting alone, holding her mother. Clara covered her mouth. Marcus's eyes lingered on the closed door to the guest room. "I don't know what we're doing yet," he whispered, "but I couldn't walk away. Not this time." And in the living room, beneath the ticking of the old grandfather clock, the house felt quieter than usual, but fuller, too. Something had changed. And tomorrow, Marcus knew, would no longer belong to just him. The smell of maple bacon and scrambled eggs drifted through the hallway, mingling with the gentle creak of old floorboards as the morning light slid across the hardwood floor of the Lane residence. Clara moved around the kitchen in her robe, humming softly, every movement precise and quiet as if the wrong sound might shatter something fragile. Marcus stood by the window, coffee mug in hand, watching the sun rise over the sycamores. He hadn't slept much. Even after the house had gone silent, his thoughts hadn't. All night he'd found himself listening for footsteps, for breathing, for any sound from the guest room where Maya slept. The urn cradled in her arms. "She didn't make a sound," Clara said, coming to stand beside him. "Didn't even stir." Marcus nodded, his jaw tight. She was holding that urn like it was the last thing keeping her anchored. Clara looked at her husband. "You're thinking about your mother, aren't you?" He didn't respond immediately. "I was older than her when I lost mine," he said finally. "But I remember that silence, that helpless silence, the kind where you want to scream, but you don't know how." Clara reached out and placed her hand gently on his back. "She's safe now. That's what matters." They turned at the sound of soft footsteps. Maya stood in the hallway, bag clutched to her chest, dressed in one of Clara's oversized t-shirts. Her feet were bare, and her eyes were still swollen from sleep, but there was something different in her posture. She wasn't running anymore. She was watching. "Morning, sweetheart," Clara greeted gently. "You hungry?" Maya didn't answer right away. Her gaze moved between Marcus and Clara, then to the kitchen table where a plate had already been set with pancakes and strawberries. "I didn't mean to fall asleep," she mumbled, voice husky. "I was just resting my eyes." That's all right," Marcus said. "You needed the rest." Maya walked slowly toward the table and sat down, still holding the bag on her lap. She looked at the food, then at Clara. "This all for me?" Clara smiled warmly. "Of course. And there's more if you want it." Maya picked up the fork with 2 fingers, like she was waiting for someone to take it back. She took one cautious bite, then another, and another. Soon, the pancakes were gone, and Clara had to quietly refill her plate. Marcus sat across from her. "Maya," he said gently, "can I ask you something?" She nodded without looking up. "Do you have any other family? Anyone who might be looking for you?" She stopped chewing and slowly shook her head. "Just me and Mama. It's always been just us." Clara poured her a glass of milk, setting it down beside her. "Do you know your last name?" Maya hesitated. "Davis." "And your mom's name?" Marcus asked. Maya's voice lowered. "Camille Davis." Clara exchanged a glance with Marcus. "I tried to call someone," Maya said suddenly, her voice cracking. "There was a number Mama told me to call if anything happened. But the phone booth didn't work. Then it got dark, and I didn't know where to go." Tears welled in her eyes again, but she blinked them back fiercely. She wasn't going to cry, not in front of strangers, not again. Marcus leaned in. "Maya, I know this is a lot, and you've been incredibly brave, but I want you to know something, what you're carrying in that bag. What's inside that urn, it's important, and it matters, but so do you. You matter." Maya looked at him then, really looked. Her eyes were darker than they had seemed the night before, full of stories she hadn't told, full of moments that shouldn't belong to children. "Is it okay if I don't talk about her yet?" she asked, voice trembling. "Of course," Clara said quickly. "You talk when you're ready, or not at all. Either way, you've got a place here." Maya's grip on the bag loosened just a little. Marcus stood. "After breakfast, I'd like to call someone I know. Her name's Sandra. She helps kids in tough situations like yours. She's not from the government, she works with families, with people who care. Maya's fork paused midair. They're not gonna take me, right? I don't want to go to those places. Marcus shook his head. I won't let that happen. Not unless it's the best thing for you. But right now, you're safe here. Maya stared at him. Then, in a voice so soft it barely reached his ears, she whispered, Mama always said there's kindness still left in the world. I didn't believe her. Clara smiled. You might just be sitting at a table full of it, honey. They finished breakfast slowly. Clara coaxed a smile from Maya when she brought out her old stuffed bear from a closet. Marcus stepped outside to make the call to Sandra, explaining everything careful to frame it not as a case, but as a child who needed space and time. When he returned, Maya was curled on the living room sofa, the urn resting safely on the cushion beside her, the bear tucked under her arm. The bag sat at her feet, still zipped tight. Marcus stood in the doorway, watching her quietly. He wasn't sure what he was stepping into. There were forms to file, questions to answer, a dozen roadblocks ahead. But as the morning sun filtered through the lace curtains and settled over Maya's small frame, he knew one thing with certainty. He had found her on the side of a road, holding grief in a bag, and he wasn't letting her carry it alone anymore. Sandra Cole arrived that afternoon in a silver Buick, the kind that had seen 20 good years and probably had 20 more in it. She stepped out with a leather tote, her salt and pepper curls pulled into a tidy bun, and a pair of sensible shoes that clicked softly on the driveway. Sandra had the look of someone who'd stared down chaos before and never blinked. Marcus met her at the door. Thank you for coming so quickly. I drop everything when you call, Marcus, she said, smiling. Besides, you sounded shaken. That's not like you. Marcus stepped aside. There's a girl inside, Maya, 9 years old. Lost her mother 2 days ago. She's been on her own since. I found her at a gas station last night. Sandra paused in the doorway. Did you call CPS? No, he said firmly. I didn't want her going into the system. Not yet. Not until someone actually listens to her. Sandra arched an eyebrow. And you're ready to be that someone? I don't know, Marcus admitted. But I know I can't just send her into a stranger's hands without trying. Inside, Maya sat at the kitchen table coloring quietly with Clara, who had found a stack of old markers and a spiral notebook. The urn rested beside her like a constant companion, never more than a foot away. Clara looked up as Sandra entered and smiled warmly. Maya, this is Miss Sandra. She's a friend of ours. Maya glanced up briefly, then back to her page. She here to take me? Sandra knelt down so she was eye level with the girl. No, sweetheart. I'm just here to listen. And if there's something you need, I help figure it out with you. Not for you. Maya eyed her carefully, then gave a small nod. Sandra turned to Clara and Marcus. Would you mind if Maya and I sat outside for a bit? Of course, Clara said. There's lemonade in the fridge if you want it. They moved to the back porch, where the wind stirred the leaves and the cicadas hummed. Maya sat on the swing, the urn in her lap. Sandra took the rocking chair. Tell me about her, Sandra said gently. Maya's hands gripped the urn. Mama was tired all the time, but she still made breakfast. And she braided my hair even when her hands hurt. She worked at a motel, changed sheets, cleaned up messes that weren't hers. She got fired when she couldn't stop coughing. Sandra listened, her hands resting calmly on her knees. She told me to keep walking if anything ever happened, to find someone kind. And you did, Sandra said. That takes a lot of courage, Maya. Maya looked down. People think I'm weak because I cry. Sandra shook her head. Crying doesn't make you weak. It makes you honest. Maya tilted her head, uncertain. Sandra continued. You know, when I was your age, I lost someone too. I didn't talk about it for a long time. But one day, someone sat beside me, like this, and just listened. And slowly, I started to heal. Maya's eyes filled again. She didn't cry not this time, but she nodded. Back inside, Marcus watched from the window, arms folded. You think she'll be okay? Sandra returned a little while later and sat with Marcus in the living room while Clara made tea. She's been through more in 2 days than most adults face in years. But she's smart, observant, and she's bonded to both of you already. Marcus sighed. She won't let go of that bag. Or the urn. She shouldn't have to, Sandra said. It's not just ashes. It's her story. He looked up. So what now? Sandra pulled out a notepad. I'll file a temporary guardianship petition. You've got the means, the home, and she trusts you. That's more than most kids in her position get. Will CPS fight it? They might, Sandra said honestly. But if Maya tells them what she told me, and if I file it right, we've got a good shot. Marcus leaned back, rubbing a hand over his face. She's just a kid. She deserves something better than a courtroom. She's already got something better, Sandra said softly. She's got someone who didn't look away. Later that evening, Maya asked to help with dinner. Clara showed her how to peel carrots, and soon the girl stood on a stool beside her, sleeves rolled up, a small smile twitching at the corners of her mouth. Marcus stood in the doorway, watching them, a deep stillness settling over him. It had been a long time since his house had felt like anything other than a place to sleep, but now, with Maya humming a tune under her breath and Clara stirring soup on the stove, something had shifted. He stepped into the kitchen and cleared his throat. After we eat, how about we pick a movie? I've got old cartoons, the funny ones. Maya looked up, a spark in her eyes. Can I pick? Absolutely. That night, they watched a worn-out copy of The Iron Giant. Maya nestled between Marcus and Clara on the couch. She didn't laugh much, but her head slowly leaned against Marcus's shoulder midway through the film, and she didn't move again until the credits rolled. Marcus didn't move either. He didn't want to. By the time Maya was asleep, back in the guest room, urn beside her pillow, Sandra had already left, promising updates by the next day. Clara curled beside Marcus on the couch. She called me Miss Clara tonight, she said, a note of wonder in her voice. Marcus exhaled. I think she's letting us in. They sat there in silence, the soft glow of the lamp washing over them, listening to the distant hum of a house that, for the first time in years, felt full again. Outside, the wind rustled the trees gently, and inside, a girl who had walked through heartbreak slept with both arms wrapped around everything she had left, no longer alone. Morning arrived gently, with golden light spilling across Maya's pillow and dancing on the urn beside her. She blinked awake slowly, arms still curled around the soft blanket Clara had tucked around her the night before. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. The ceiling was different. So was the quiet. It wasn't empty, it was warm. Down the hall, the smell of toast drifted in. She sat up carefully, brushing her hair from her eyes. Her fingers grazed the cool metal lid of the urn. She pulled it into her lap and sat there a long moment, listening to the muffled sounds of Clara humming in the kitchen. By the time she appeared at the doorway, Marcus was at the dining table reading emails on his tablet, and Clara was plating scrambled eggs. They both looked up as Maya stepped in, the urn held close to her side like always. Morning, sunshine, Clara said with a smile. We've got eggs, toast, and orange juice. You hungry? Maya gave a small nod. Marcus pushed back his chair. Sit wherever you want. Table's yours now, too. Maya sat carefully, placing the urn beside her plate like it had its own seat. She glanced at Clara. Do you have paper? And a pencil? Sure do. Clara opened a drawer and pulled out a small yellow notebook and a number. 2 pencil. She placed them gently in front of Maya. You working on a story? Maya didn't answer, just opened the notebook and began to draw. Her lines were precise but gentle circles, rooftops, a little girl standing beside a house. Marcus watched her, fascinated. That you? Maya shrugged. Looks like you're an artist, he added. She glanced at him. Mama said drawing helps remember the things your heart doesn't want to forget. He didn't say anything after that. He couldn't. A little while later, Sandra returned. This time, she brought papers in a folder, a thick manila stack labeled Emergency Petition, Temporary Guardianship. Clara poured coffee while Marcus led Sandra to the den, Maya trailing behind, holding her bag tight again. This time, she sat on the arm of the couch rather than hiding behind it. All right, Sandra began, adjusting her glasses. I've drafted the petition. It includes a declaration from me, your housing situation, income, background check, which you've already cleared, and a signed statement of intent. Marcus leaned forward. What happens after we file? A judge will review it, sometimes within 24 hours. If approved, it gives you temporary custody, not adoption. Just the right to make decisions for her care while a long-term plan is reviewed. Maya looked up, worried. So they still might take me away? Sandra softened. We're not there yet, sweetheart. Right now, this is about making sure no one takes you anywhere until your voice is heard. Maya nodded slowly, uncertain. Marcus turned to Sandra. What about her birth certificate? School records? We've got nothing but her name and her mother's name. Sandra tapped the folder. That's our next step. I'll start by tracking down any employment records under Camille Davis. You said she worked at a motel? Yes, Marcus replied. The Riverbend Inn. That's where Maya said she used to clean rooms. Sandra made a note. I'll follow up. If we can get even one W-2 or pay stub, it might lead to a social security number. And from there, birth records. Maya looked from one adult to another. Will they make me live with someone else if they find more family? Sandra hesitated. Only if it's what's best for you. But no one can decide that until they talk to you. And I'll be there for every step of it. Maya nodded again, but this time, she looked at Marcus longer than she did Sandra. After lunch, Marcus drove Maya to the Riverbend Inn, a squat brick building just off the highway with faded signage and a sun-worn parking lot. The front desk clerk, a heavy-set man with thinning hair, barely looked up as they entered. Can I help you? Marcus stepped forward. We're looking for employment records for a former staff member, Camille Davis. She worked here within the last year. The man frowned. We don't give out employee information. I understand, Marcus said, sliding a business card across the counter. But this is about her daughter. Her mother passed away. The man's eyes flicked toward Maya, who stood beside Marcus, clutching the urn. Something in his expression softened. I remember Camille, he said, sighing. Hard worker, never complained, even when she should have. She worked here about 6 months. I think she left late February. Oh, do you have any pay records? Marcus asked. I'll check. The man disappeared into the office behind the counter. While they waited, Maya wandered toward the vending machine, peering inside. Marcus joined her. You okay? She nodded. That man, he knew her. That felt weird. Good, weird? She shrugged. Just weird. The man returned with a paper in his hand. Found one. Last paycheck stub. Shows social security, date of birth, address. It's not much, but maybe it helps. It helps more than you know, Marcus said, taking the paper. Thank you. As they stepped outside, Maya stared at the clouds. She used to say the clouds were God's paper, that if you watch long enough, they'd spell out what's coming next. Marcus glanced up. See anything yet? She gave the faintest smile. Not yet. Maybe tomorrow. Back at the house, Sandra called to confirm she'd submitted the petition. If all goes well, we could hear back by tomorrow afternoon. Marcus stood on the back porch after dinner, watching Maya draw again in her notebook under the porch light. This time, she wasn't drawing houses. She was drawing people. A man in a suit, a woman with a kind smile, a little girl holding something close to her heart, and for the first time since she'd arrived, she hummed, quietly, almost to herself. Marcus didn't interrupt. Some stories were best told in pictures first. Words would come later. Maybe when the clouds spelled out the next chapter. For now, she was here, and she was beginning to belong. The next morning broke with an unexpected stillness. Maya sat at the kitchen table, chewing her toast with quiet focus. Her fingers smudged with pencil lead from the sketches she'd already filled 2 pages with before breakfast. Clara moved around the kitchen, humming along to a classic Sam Cooke tune on the radio, while Marcus sipped his coffee and scrolled through emails, waiting for the one that mattered. At precisely 9:13 a.m., his phone buzzed. He saw the name Sandra and stood up without a word, stepping out onto the porch to take the call. Clara met Maya's eyes and offered a small smile. He's probably talking to Miss Sandra. She's been working hard for you. Maya nodded, her fork hovering over her eggs. Is she nice to everyone? Or just me? She's nice to people who need someone, Clara replied. And right now, that's you. Outside, Marcus stood in the shade of the porch roof, the screen door slightly ajar behind him. What have you got? He asked quietly. Sandra's voice was calm but edged with something sharper urgency. I found her birth record. Camille Davis listed as mother, no father named, born in New Orleans, which means we have a verified identity. Marcus let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. But that's not all, Sandra continued. I found an Aunt Camille's sister, name's Denise Carter, lives about 90 miles north, in a small town called Elmbrook. She filed a change of address 3 months ago, so it's current. Marcus straightened. Does she know? Not yet, Sandra said. I was going to reach out, but I wanted to check with you first. We don't know the relationship. Camille never listed her on any emergency forms, and we don't know if Maya even knows she exists. Marcus's eyes narrowed, watching the trees sway in the morning breeze. Let me talk to Maya first. He stepped back inside, where Clara had just set down a plate of fresh-cut fruit. Maya looked up, alert. Can I ask you something? Marcus said, taking the seat across from her. She nodded. Do you remember if your mom had any brothers or sisters? Maya tilted her head, thinking. She had a sister once, Aunt Denise, but we never saw her. Mama said she lived too far from the truth. I didn't really know what that meant. Did your mom talk about her often? Number just once or twice, when I asked why we didn't have any family at Christmas. Marcus exchanged a glance with Clara, then leaned forward. Sandra found her. She's still around. Lives not far from here. Maya's fork stilled over her plate. Her voice was a whisper. Is she coming to take me? We don't know anything yet, Marcus said carefully, but we wanted you to hear it from us first. You deserve to be part of any decision. Maya stared at the table for a long moment. Then, can you ask her if she knows what kind of tea Mama liked? Marcus blinked. You want me to ask her that? If she doesn't know, Maya said softly, then she didn't really know Mama. Marcus sat with that for a moment, then gave a slow nod. All right, I'll ask. Later that afternoon, Sandra called Denise Carter. Marcus listened on speakerphone as Sandra introduced herself and explained, gently but clearly, that Camille had passed away, and her daughter had been placed in temporary care. There was a pause on the other end. Then Denise's voice came through deep, slightly raspy, unsure. She had a daughter. Camille never told me. We hadn't spoken in years. I understand, Sandra said. But Maya remembers you. And before we go any further, there's one thing she wants to know. There was a rustling on the line. What's that? Sandra smiled faintly. Do you know what kind of tea Camille liked? Denise was quiet for a beat. Then, softly, peppermint, always peppermint, even when she was sick, said it calmed the world. Marcus and Clara looked toward Maya, who sat on the stairs just out of view, eavesdropping with all the seriousness a child could muster. When she heard the answer, she exhaled long and quiet and nodded. That evening, Marcus sat on the porch swing with Maya beside him, her feet swinging just above the porch floor. I heard her voice, Maya said after a long stretch of silence. She sounds older than Mama. She is, Marcus said. She said she'd like to meet you, but only if you want that too. Maya considered this. Do I have to go live with her? You don't have to do anything you're not ready for, Marcus said. This is your story. We're just helping you tell it. She nodded, her hands resting on the urn in her lap. If I go, will I still get to see you and Miss Clara? Marcus's chest tightened. If that's what you want, we'll be there, wherever you are. Maya didn't respond right away. Then, after a pause, okay, maybe we can visit her. Just once. See if she knows other things. Like Mama's favorite song. Clara stepped outside, carrying a glass of lemonade for Maya. You don't have to decide tonight, she said. We've got time. That night, Maya added a new drawing to her notebook. This one showed 3 people standing under a large tree. One was small, with a ponytail. One was tall, with a coat. One had an apron and a kind smile. Above them, a sun peeked out from behind the clouds. She titled it in careful block letters, Not Alone. And as Marcus tucked her in, dimming the lamp beside her bed, he saw the urn resting peacefully on her nightstand. It no longer looked like an anchor. It looked like a beginning. The morning air was thick with early summer humidity as Marcus pulled the car out of the driveway. Maya sat in the back seat, hugging her sketchbook and bag, the urn carefully nestled in a tote between her feet. Clara rode up front, hands folded in her lap, occasionally glancing back at Maya through the rearview mirror. It had taken 3 full days for Maya to say yes to the visit. Not, yes, I want to go live there, or even, yes, I'm excited. Just a quiet, measured nod after Marcus promised her they would go together, stay for only a short while, and leave the moment Maya felt uncomfortable. "We're not handing you off," he'd said. "We're just opening a door." Elmbrook was smaller than Maya expected. One traffic light, a post office with a rusted flagpole, and a grocery store with a hand-painted sign that read, Clark's Market. They drove past a Baptist church, a field of broken cornstalks, and a row of modest brick homes with children's toys scattered in the front yards. "Here," Marcus said softly, easing the car up to the curb. Denise Carter's house was a weathered white bungalow with green shutters and a wide porch shaded by an enormous oak tree. Wind chimes danced lazily in the breeze, and an old swing set creaked in the backyard. Maya stared at the house as if trying to see through it. "She doesn't look mean," Maya said quietly. "No, she doesn't," Clara replied gently. Denise stood at the front door, wringing her hands in a towel. She wore a floral blouse tucked into faded jeans and had a face shaped by years of hard work, creased but kind. Marcus stepped out first, then walked around to open Maya's door. She hesitated before sliding out, clutching the bag over her shoulder and the urn in both arms. Denise stepped forward but didn't reach out. "Hi." "Maya, you probably don't remember me." Maya blinked at her. "You have Mama's eyes." That made Denise smile just a little. "And you have her quiet." There was a long silence before Denise stepped aside. "Would you like to come in? I made lemonade. I didn't know if you liked sweet tea." Maya nodded once and followed Clara into the house, Marcus trailing behind. The inside was neat but lived in. A crocheted blanket covered the back of the couch. Family photos filled the mantel. The smell of lemon-scented cleaner lingered under the faint aroma of fried okra. Denise led them to the living room and set down a tray with glasses and cookies. She watched Maya like someone who wanted to reach out but didn't know how. "I didn't know Camille had a daughter," she said finally. "We hadn't spoken in years." "She said you left," Maya murmured. Denise's face darkened for a moment. "We had our differences. I wanted her to leave a man who wasn't good for her. She didn't want to talk about it. After that, we stopped calling." "She did leave," Maya said. "A long time ago." Marcus cleared his throat gently. "Denise, Maya has a question for you. Something that's important to her." Denise nodded, folding her hands. "What was Mama's favorite song?" Maya asked. Denise's eyes softened. "It was that old Sam Cooke tune, 'A Change Is Gonna Come.' She used to sing it while she folded laundry. Said it reminded her not to give up." Maya looked down at her lap, hands tightening on the urn. "She sang it to me before bed sometimes." Denise leaned forward slightly. "I'd like to hear you sing it someday, if you're ever ready." The room fell silent again, but it was a softer silence this time. After a while, Denise brought out an old shoebox filled with photographs and letters. "I kept these," she said. "Even when we stopped talking. I thought maybe one day, I'd see her again." Maya sifted through the photos slowly. One showed Camille and Denise on a fishing pier, grinning. Another captured them as children beside a Christmas tree. A third Camille alone, cradling an infant Maya in her arms, with a hospital bracelet still on her wrist. Maya froze. "That's me," she whispered. "Yes," Denise said softly. "That's the day you came into her life, and everything changed." After the visit, the ride home was quiet. Maya leaned her head against the window, sketchbook unopened in her lap. Marcus glanced back at her. "You okay?" "I don't know," she said. "It felt like Mama was in that house, like pieces of her were still there." "That's not a bad thing," Clara said from the front seat. "I know." Maya looked down at her hands, but it also felt like she was gone again, all over. That night, Maya sat at the kitchen table, staring at the photo of her and her mother. Clara made hot cocoa and placed it beside her. Marcus sat across from her with a quiet patience that said he didn't need words to be present. After a long pause, Maya finally spoke. "I don't want to live with her." Marcus nodded slowly. "Okay. She's not mean," Maya continued. "She's just not Mama. And I know you're not Mama either. But here, I don't feel like I'm floating." "You're not," Clara said softly. "You're grounded now." Maya reached for her sketchbook and opened to a blank page. She began drawing again, this time a porch swing, a woman with a towel in her hands, and a girl holding a small urn. The caption read, "Memory is a place too." And in that house, under that roof, the door to her past had opened. But it was the hands that stayed by her side when she walked back through it that began to shape her future. The sky darkened in a slow, deliberate way that afternoon, the kind that didn't rush in with thunder but instead crept over the town like a heavy blanket. Clara stood at the kitchen sink, watching as clouds rolled across the tops of the sycamores. The air had shifted, thickened with tension, and she felt it in her shoulders before she even looked outside. Inside the house, Maya sat on the living room rug, hunched over a puzzle Clara had brought down from the closet. Her sketchbook lay beside her, half open, a pencil tucked between her fingers. Her focus was absolute, her brows furrowed with the intensity of a child who needed the world to stay still, just long enough to finish the corner piece. Marcus entered from the den, phone in hand. He looked serious. "What is it?" Clara asked. "That was Sandra," he said. "She got a call from a social worker. CPS has taken notice of the petition. There's going to be a home visit tomorrow." Clara blinked. "Already? That was fast." They're moving quickly because of Maya's age and the lack of legal custody. Denise declined guardianship, which helps. But someone flagged the report for follow-up. Maya looked up at the sound of her name. Marcus crouched beside her. "Maya, honey, there's going to be someone coming tomorrow, a lady from the city. She just wants to ask some questions about how you're doing here." Maya's eyes widened. "Are they going to take me?" "No," Clara said firmly, stepping into the room. "We won't let that happen. But we do need to be honest with her just like you've been honest with us." Maya nodded slowly, her hand sliding to rest protectively over the urn beside her. That night, the rain finally came thick and steady, pounding against the windows in a rhythm that seemed to echo every unspoken fear in the room. Marcus sat in his study with a notebook, jotting down answers to questions the caseworker might ask: routines, meals, schooling plans, medical checkups. Clara ironed pillowcases and made up the guest room to look even more welcoming. And Maya stayed on the couch, arms around the urn, watching the fireplace flicker. At one point, she looked at Marcus and asked, "What if they think I'm broken?" He sat down beside her, not speaking for a long moment. Then, "You ever seen a stained glass window?" She nodded. "Looks like a mess when the light's off, but when the sun shines through it, that mess becomes something beautiful. You're not broken, Maya. You're a window, and there's light coming through." She didn't respond right away, but later, when she picked up her sketchbook again, she drew a single square pane of glass. It wasn't finished, but there were colors. Morning came early. Clara made biscuits from scratch, the scent of butter and flour filling the house with a kind of old comfort that couldn't be manufactured. Maya helped set the table, placing napkins with careful symmetry. She wore a clean blue dress Clara had hemmed the night before, and her hair had been brushed smooth and tied with a soft ribbon. At 10 a.m. sharp, the doorbell rang. Marcus answered. A woman in her late 30s stood there in a gray blazer and black slacks, holding a leather-bound tablet and a clipboard. Her badge read, "Kendra Owens, Family and Child Services." "Mr. Lane?" she asked. "Yes, come in." Maya watched from the hallway as the woman stepped inside, her eyes scanning the room like a quiet machine. Kendra took a seat in the dining room, opening her folder. She glanced at Maya, then at Clara, and Marcus. "Let's begin with the basics. How long has Maya been staying here?" 7 days, Marcus replied. "Since I found her at the Chevron station off I-10. She was alone?" "Yes," Clara added. "And grieving. She hadn't eaten in what looked like a day or more." "Kendra jotad notice. And you filed a petition for temporary guardianship?" "Yes," Marcus said. "With Sandra Cole's support." Kendra nodded. "Sandra's known in our office. Her assessments are respected." She turned to Maya. "May I speak with you, Maya?" Maya looked at Marcus, who gave a soft nod. "It's okay," he said. "Just be yourself." Maya stepped forward, her small hands folded. Kendra knelt to her level. "Do you like it here?" Kendra asked. Maya hesitated. "Yes." "Do you feel safe?" Maya nodded. "Do Mr. and Mrs. Lane treat you kindly?" "Yes. They let me draw and help in the kitchen, and they never get mad when I'm quiet." Kendra smiled gently. "That's good. And who is this?" she asked, pointing to the urn Maya had placed beside her chair. Maya's voice softened. "My mama. I keep her close. Kendra didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned forward. That's very special. I think she'd be proud of how brave you're being. The visit lasted another 30 minutes. Questions about routines, meals, the layout of the house, and even Maya's drawings, which Kendra asked to see. Maya hesitated, then offered her sketchbook. Kendra flipped through the pages silently. One image made her pause. A drawing of 3 figures on a swing, a man, a woman, and a girl between them. She closed the book and smiled. Thank you, Maya. You're very talented. When Kendra left, Marcus followed her out to the porch. Rain had started again, a quiet drizzle tapping against the overhang. Will we hear from you soon? Marcus asked. Yes, she said. I'll be recommending that the guardianship be approved, permanently. He exhaled. You've done something rare, she added. You didn't rescue her, you received her. Marcus watched as Kendra got into her car and drove off. When he stepped back inside, Maya ran to him, not with fear but with relief. And for the first time since that night at the gas station, Marcus lifted her into his arms. Not like someone holding a stranger, but like someone holding home. The morning after Kendra Owens left, the Lane house seemed to breathe easier. The air wasn't as heavy, and the silence that had once felt uncertain now felt restful. Maya woke slowly, tangled in her blankets, the urn resting on the nightstand as it always did. But that morning, she didn't reach for it right away. Instead, she sat up and listened to the quiet hum of life downstairs. Clara humming in the kitchen, the kettle whistling, a chair scraping across the floor. She patted down the hall in her socks, pausing at Marcus and Clara's door, then continuing past, as if each room were a place in a story she was slowly learning to trust. In the kitchen, Clara looked up with a bright smile. Well, good morning, sleepy girl. You're just in time. Banana pancakes. Maya blinked, rubbing her eyes. What day is it? Thursday, Marcus said, already seated at the table with a newspaper folded beside his coffee. And you don't have to go to school today, so we're calling it Pancake Thursday. It's a new tradition. Maya slid into her seat, smiling faintly. Do all your traditions start with food? Marcus winked. All the good ones do. Halfway through breakfast, Clara set down her fork. So I was thinking, we could go to the library today. They've got a kids' corner, and Miss Dottie, she's been the librarian since forever, said they've just added a new art shelf. Maya's eyes lit up. Can I bring my sketchbook? You better, Marcus said. It's practically a crime to go to a library without it. Later that afternoon, the 3 of them stood beneath the domed ceiling of the Elmbrook Public Library. The old brick building smelled of time pages, polish, and soft dust. Miss Dottie, a cheerful woman with thick glasses and a sweater decorated in tiny embroidered cats, welcomed Maya like she'd been expected. We've got all the crayons and markers you could ever need, she said, gesturing to a colorful corner where 2 other kids sat cross-legged on a rug, and a reading nook just for young artists. Maya hesitated at first, gripping her bag tightly, but Clara knelt beside her. We'll stay close, all right? You don't have to talk if you don't want to. Just explore. Maya nodded and slowly walked toward the corner, then settled in beside a box of picture books. She flipped through a few before pulling out her sketchbook and beginning to draw faces, flowers, a winding path through a forest. Marcus and Clara sat nearby, reading and pretending not to watch her every move. An hour passed, then another. At one point, Maya stood and approached Miss Dottie's desk. She held up her drawing-gan image of a girl standing in a library, with open books forming a pathway beneath her feet. Miss Dottie's face broke into a grin. That's beautiful, dear. Would you like to hang it up? Maya blinked. I can do that? We've got a whole wall for local artists. I think your work belongs there. Maya nodded slowly, and for the first time, she wrote her name at the bottom of the page, not just Maya, but Maya Davis. On the ride home, she was quiet but content, her head resting against the window. When they returned to the house, the first raindrops began to fall again. Clara went to start a pot of chili, and Marcus took a call from Sandra to discuss the next legal steps. Maya climbed the stairs alone and stood at the doorway to her room. She looked at the urn on her nightstand, then walked in and sat beside it. Gently, she traced the lid with her finger, then whispered, I think you'd like it here, Mama. I think you'd say it's okay. Later that night, as the storm gathered force outside, Maya woke with a jolt. A sharp crack of thunder shook the windows, followed by a sudden loss of light. Everything went black. The house fell into silence. She sat up in bed, heart racing, eyes wide in the darkness. She reached instinctively for the urn and then hesitated. A soft light flickered in the hallway. Maya slid out of bed and followed it. In the kitchen, she found Marcus lighting candles. Clara stood at the counter, holding a flashlight and 2 mugs of cocoa. "You okay?" Marcus asked, glancing up. Maya nodded, wrapping her arms around herself. "We always keep candles ready this time of year," Clara said gently. "Storm season's tricky. Power's probably out for a couple of hours," Marcus added. "You want to sit with us? We were going to tell stories." "Real ones?" Maya asked. "The best kind," Clara said. "Real stories always have the most magic." So they sat around the small circle of candlelight. Maya tucked in beside Clara, the cocoa warming her hands. Marcus began. "When I was 12, my grandfather took me fishing in a storm just like this. We didn't catch a thing, but we sat in that boat and talked about life, about hope, about how sometimes you just have to wait in the rain to see what floats by." Maya smiled slightly. "My mom used to say storms weren't bad, just loud reminders that something was cleaning the sky." "I like that," Clara said softly. "Very much." As the night deepened and the candles burned low, Maya leaned her head on Clara's shoulder and whispered, "Can I leave the urn here, just for tonight? I want to sleep without holding it." Clara didn't speak right away. She wrapped an arm around the girl and nodded. "Of course, baby. It'll be safe here." Maya stood and walked back to her room. She paused at the door, then turned. "Good night, Mama," she whispered to the urn, and for the first time since the night she lost everything, she lay down in Bedempty arms, full-hearted, slept without fear. In the darkness, the rain kept falling, but inside, the healing had already begun. The next morning, sunlight spilled into the kitchen like a quiet apology for the storm. Maya stood on a step stool at the counter, helping Clara stir pancake batter with slow, practiced movements. Her braids swung gently with each turn of the spoon. The urn still rested on the bookshelf in the living room where she'd left it the night before, untouched but not unloved. Marcus sipped his coffee while flipping through the local paper. "Says here the fair's coming to town next weekend," he mentioned, tapping the page. "Rides, cotton candy, live music, the whole thing." Maya's eyes brightened. "Can we go?" "If we're all free," Clara teased. "You might be too busy being a full-time artist." "Miss Dottie called me last night. Said someone asked if they could buy your drawing." Maya froze, the whisk still mid-air. "Buy it?" "She said a local teacher wanted to hang it in her classroom." Clara replied, smiling. "But Dottie told her she'd have to ask you first." Maya blinked, trying to process it. "I've never sold anything before." "Well," Marcus said, folding the paper, "that makes you a professional now." After breakfast, Clara suggested a trip into town for a frame for the drawing, just in case you decide to sell it or keep it forever. Maya held the sketchbook close. "I want to keep it, but I want to make another for the teacher." "That's a beautiful idea," Clara said, kissing the top of her head. They drove into town, stopping at Harper's Antiques and Framing, a shop with creaky wooden floors and walls filled with dusty treasures. Maya wandered among the aisles, her fingers grazing over polished picture frames, brass candlesticks, and glass animals with chipped edges. She paused at a shelf near the back and picked up a small ornate frame bronze with tiny flower engravings. It felt heavy in her hands, solid, like memory. "This one," she said. Clara turned it over. "Perfect choice." As they waited at the counter, Marcus chatted with the shopkeeper, a white-haired woman named Jean who remembered Clara from childhood. "This your girl?" she asked, nodding toward Maya. Marcus glanced at Maya, then back. "She's our heart." Jean smiled warmly. "That's better than blood any day." Back at home, Clara helped Maya slide her drawing into the frame. They hung it beside the hallway mirror, near the front door. Maya stepped back, studying it in its new home. "It looks like it belongs there," she whispered. Marcus nodded. "Because it does." That afternoon, the mail arrived 2 letters and a small padded envelope. Clara handed it to Marcus, who opened it at the dining table. Inside was a flash drive and a short note. To Maya, "I found this cleaning out Camille's locker at the motel. Figured it was important. Luis." Marcus stared at the flash drive. It's from someone your mom worked with, he said, looking at Maya. Want to see what's on it? Maya hesitated, then nodded. Yes. They gathered in the den, and Marcus plugged the drive into his laptop. A single video file appeared. For Maya. MP4. Marcus clicked it. Camille's face filled the screen, tired, pale, but smiling. She sat in what looked like a small motel room, sunlight filtering in behind her. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Hi, baby girl. If you're watching this, well, that means I couldn't keep my promise. I tried, Maya. I tried so hard, and I'm sorry. Maya's hand clutched Clara's tightly. I made this because I didn't want you to forget. Not just me, but the love, the good parts. The way you laughed when you made toast all by yourself. The songs we sang in the car. The way your eyes lit up when you drew a world no one else could see. Camille coughed lightly, then smiled again. You are not alone, even if it feels like it. You are the bravest soul I've ever known. And if someone's taking care of you, know. If someone's holding your hand, let them. Let them love you. Don't carry the whole world by yourself. It's okay to rest sometimes. She looked off camera briefly, then returned. And baby, it's okay to let me go when you're ready. I'll still be there. Just softer. Just quieter. The screen faded to black. For a long moment, the room held only silence. Then Maya stood, walked to the bookshelf, and lifted the urn from its place. She carried it back to the couch, cradled it in her arms, and cried, not with the panic of before, not with confusion or fear. These tears were different. They were part of the goodbye. That night, she drew again her mother's face, gentle and luminous, framed in golden lines. She titled the picture simply, Still With Me. Clara tucked her in early, brushing Maya's hair with slow, steady hands. Thank you, Maya whispered. For what, baby? For giving me new places to put love. Outside, the last light faded from the sky. But inside the house, something glowed brighter than ever. It wasn't the candles. It was healing. It was family. And it was just beginning. The town fair arrived on a Saturday, wrapped in color and sound. Banners snapped in the breeze, laughter spilled from every corner, and the scent of funnel cakes, popcorn, and grilled sausage thickened the air. For Maya, it felt like walking into a living painting, bright, dizzying, and full of motion. She clutched Clara's hand tightly at first, overwhelmed by the noise and the bodies. But Clara leaned down and whispered, One step at a time, baby. It's all just pieces until we put them together. Marcus bought tickets at the booth, chatting with the volunteer, an old friend from high school, before leading the way toward the carousel. Start slow, he said. This one's got horses that don't buck. Maya gave a small smile. I like horses. The three of them mounted the ride, and as the music began to play, Maya watched the world turn in gentle circles. She didn't wave at anyone, didn't shout or laugh, but her eyes sparkled, and her grip on the reins was calm, confident. She belonged to this moment. After the ride, they walked past booths filled with crafts and quilts, stopping at a table where a local artist painted names in bright calligraphy. Want yours? Marcus asked. Maya hesitated, then nodded. The artist, a woman with silver hair tied in a scarf, smiled as she wrote out Maya Davis in looping strokes surrounded by vines and flowers. When Maya held it in her hands, she stared at it for a long time. It's the first time I've seen my name look like it mattered. Clara leaned close. It's always mattered, sweetheart, but now it's got a frame around it. They stopped for lemonade, then popcorn, then watched a juggling clown drop his pins when a goat from the petting zoo wandered onto the stage. Maya giggled softly at first, then again louder. It was a sound Marcus hadn't heard in full until then, and he looked at Clara like they'd just found something sacred. Later, they wandered toward the Ferris wheel, but Maya stopped in front of the photo booth, staring at the black curtain and blinking light. Can we take pictures? She asked. Of course, Clara said. Inside the booth, they crammed together, Clara on the left, Marcus on the right, Maya in the middle. The flash popped 3 times, catching Maya's wide eyes, Clara's laugh, and Marcus's surprised expression as Maya made bunny ears behind his head. When the strip printed, Maya held it like it was treasure. Let's put it in a frame next to my drawing, she said. You got it, Marcus replied. Right next to the front door. As they made their way toward the exit, A voice called out from behind. Marcus Lane? He turned to see a tall man in his mid-40s approaching, wearing a sheriff's uniform and dark sunglasses. Deputy Brian Keller, the man said, extending a hand. Mind if I speak to you for a moment? Marcus exchanged a glance with Clara. Of course. Keller stepped aside with him, voice low. We got a call earlier this week. Woman named Denise Carter. Said she had second thoughts about custody. Claimed you might be holding the girl without full consent. Marcus's jaw clenched. She signed the waiver. Sandra's handling the paperwork. I know, Keller said, but we're obligated to follow up. I'm not here to remove the child. Just need to confirm some statements and file a report. Maya, watching from a distance, instinctively stepped behind Clara. Marcus nodded slowly. We've got everything on record. You're welcome to come by the house Monday. Meet our caseworker. Keller tipped his hat. Appreciate that. No cause for alarm. Just due process. As the deputy walked away, Clara took Marcus's arm. That woman said she didn't want custody. She did, Marcus said grimly, but something's changed. That night at home, Maya stood at the hallway mirror, photo strip in one hand, sketchbook in the other. She watched her reflection, studying her own face as if learning it for the first time. Then she placed the photo beside her framed drawing and stepped back. Looks like a family wall, she murmured. Marcus walked by and heard her. That's exactly what it is. She turned to him. If someone tries to take me, do I have a say? Yes, he said, and we'll fight for that say. I'm tired of being part of other people's choices, she said softly. I want to make mine. Marcus crouched beside her. Then let's get you ready for that. The next morning, Marcus emailed Sandra, explaining the deputy's visit and Denise's reversal. Sandra replied within the hour. I'll file a statement and request a hearing. If Maya's willing to speak, her voice can tip the scale. Marcus printed the email and placed it in a folder labeled Guardianship, Maya. He handed the folder to Maya. This is your story. If you want, you can help tell it in court. Maya ran her fingers along the folder's edge. I want to. He nodded. We'll do it together. In the living room, Clara was already gathering her Sunday box-old church programs, music sheets, a Bible passed down from her mother. If we're going to speak truth, we'd better have the truth around us. That evening, Maya wrote a letter in her sketchbook, not a drawing this time, but words. It read, My name is Maya Davis. I'm not lost. I'm not confused. I just want a home where I can grow, not a perfect place, just a real one. She signed it, and above it, she drew a key. Simple, golden, waiting for a door. The courthouse sat on the edge of town, unremarkable in its design brick walls, dusty windows, and an aging flag swaying gently in the morning breeze. But to Maya, it loomed larger than any place she had ever entered. She clutched the folder Marcus had given her, its label still crisp. Guardianship, Maya. Clara had dressed her in a soft gray cardigan and a blue cotton dress. Strong colors, she said, but gentle, like you. Marcus wore a dark blazer and his good shoes, not because he needed to impress anyone, but because he knew appearances had weight in places where decisions were made behind wooden benches and polished desks. Sandra met them on the courthouse steps. Her usual calm demeanor was still intact, but her eyes scanned them with quiet urgency. Denise filed a formal request to pause the guardianship process, she said, voice low. She's not claiming she wants custody yet, but she's asking for visitation rights. Marcus frowned. That's not what she said to Maya. I know, but the court doesn't weigh intent. It weighs paperwork, Sandra replied. Today's hearing won't resolve everything, but it's the first crack in the wall, and Maya's statement could mean everything. Inside, the courtroom was cold, the kind of cold meant to keep emotions in check. A bailiff led them to a bench near the front. Maya sat between Clara and Marcus, the folder tight in her lap. The judge, a woman with sharp eyes and silver hair pinned into a bun interred without ceremony. She adjusted her glasses and called the room to order. We are here to review the petition for emergency guardianship filed by Marcus and Clara Lane, concerning minor Maya Davis. Let's proceed. Sandra stood and introduced herself. Her voice was steady and kind, her words chosen with care. Your Honor, Maya's biological aunt, Denise Carter, was located shortly after Maya's mother passed away. Though Miss Carter initially declined custody. She has since expressed concerns regarding the child's placement. Today, we are here to provide clarity and to give Maya a voice. The judge looked over her glasses. Does Maya wish to speak? Maya looked at Marcus, then Clara. They nodded, encouraging but not pushing. Maya rose slowly and walked to the stand, the folder held tight to her chest. She climbed onto the chair with effort, her small frame nearly swallowed by the large oak seat. The courtroom seemed to lean in as she opened the folder and took out the paper she had written days earlier. She cleared her throat. "My name is Maya Davis," she began, voice trembling but audible. "I'm not lost. I'm not confused. I just want a home where I can grow. Not a perfect place, just a real one. She paused, breathing. "When my mama died, I didn't know where to go. I carried her with me. In a bag, in my arms, and I thought I had to do it alone. But then I met Mr. Marcus and Miss Clara. They didn't ask me to forget her. They just asked if I wanted pancakes." A few soft chuckles rippled through the room, but Maya didn't smile. She was focused. "They don't try to fix me. They just sit with me. They make space for my drawings, for my quiet, for my mama's memory. And they don't make promises they can't keep, but they do keep the little ones." She held up her drawing of the golden key. "This is what they gave me. Not with words, but with how they live. They gave me a door I can walk through, and the key to walk back out if I need to." The judge leaned forward. "Maya, do you want to stay with the Lanes?" "Yes," Maya said. "I want to grow up where people don't make me choose between who I was and who I'm becoming." The judge nodded slowly, her gaze unreadable. When Maya returned to her seat, Clara wrapped an arm around her shoulders, whispering something only Maya could hear. Next, Denise was called forward. She wore a neat brown suit and spoke with a controlled tone. "I never intended to confuse Maya. I just started thinking about family and what I owe my sister." The judge raised an eyebrow. "And what do you believe that is?" Denise hesitated. "A chance to be in Maya's life, not to uproot her, just to stay connected." Marcus stood. "We support that, Your Honor. Visitation, letters, phone calls, whatever Maya is comfortable with. But we believe her primary home should remain with us." The judge took a long pause. Then she folded her hands. "This court finds that Maya Davis has expressed a clear, informed desire to remain in the custody of Marcus and Clara Lane. Guardianship is granted, effective immediately. Visitation rights for Denise Carter will be structured through the Office of Family Services, to be determined in cooperation with the child and her guardians." The gavel struck wood. It was done. Outside the courthouse, sunlight poured onto the steps. Sandra hugged Clara, then Marcus, then knelt in front of Maya. "You were extraordinary in there," she said. "You spoke with more truth than most adults I know." Maya looked down at her shoes. "I was scared." And still you did it," Sandra replied. "That's what makes it brave." Denise approached quietly. "Maya," she said, "I meant what I said. I won't stop you from growing. I just hope I can still be part of your garden." Maya looked at her for a moment. "Maybe you can come to the fair next year. I'll draw you a map." Denise smiled faintly. "I'd like that." Back at home, Maya replaced the label on her folder. It no longer said, "Guardianship, Maya." Now, it read, "My story." She placed it next to her sketchbook, and beside both, she set the photo strip from the fair. Then she turned to Clara and said, "Do we still have pancake mix?" "We always do," Clara said. And the three of them headed to the kitchen not to celebrate, but to continue, because healing wasn't a finish line. It was a home. The weeks that followed the court decision settled into something close to rhythm. Not routine, exactly, but rhythm. Morning pancakes weren't every day anymore, but Maya had learned to make toast just right, and discovered she liked scrambled eggs more than she thought. Marcus drove her to the community art class every Tuesday afternoon, and Clara took her on Saturday walks through the park where the trees whispered stories through the leaves. But even in the calm, not everything stayed quiet. It started on a Friday morning, when Clara opened the mailbox and found a large manila envelope with no return address. She hesitated before bringing it inside, placing it gently on the table. Marcus looked at the handwriting on the front, the shaky scrawl of someone trying to hide fear behind certainty. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a folded photograph. The paper read, "You think you're saving her, but you don't know the whole story." The photograph was of Camille Maya's mother leaning against a rusted car, holding an infant. She looked thinner, harder, eyes not quite focused, and beside her stood a man, tall, unshaven, wearing a dark jacket and a crooked smile. Marcus turned the photo over. One word was scrawled on the back in red ink. "Father." He exhaled slowly. Clara reached out and touched his hand. "Do we show her?" "Not yet," he said. That night, Marcus placed the photo in a locked drawer. Then he sat on the porch in the dark, thinking. A part of him wanted to dismiss anonymous mail didn't deserve power. But another part knew how deep secrets ran, and how even the best soil couldn't grow strong roots if something rotten was buried beneath. Inside, Maya slept soundly, or so they thought. In her room, beneath the covers, she wasn't asleep. She had seen Clara's reaction to the envelope. She had felt the tension in Marcus's silence. And though no one had spoken a word, her instincts had grown sharp like a deer, learning which rustle meant wind and which meant danger. The next day, she asked gently, "Did I have a dad?" Marcus looked at her, then knelt beside the couch. "You did, and you still do, but your mama raised you by herself." Maya's voice was soft. "Did he leave?" "We don't know everything," Marcus said. "We're learning too." She nodded, but something in her eyes darkened not with anger, but with a quiet ache that settled into her chest like a forgotten bruise. That afternoon, while Marcus ran errands and Clara baked, Maya tiptoed into the study. She'd seen the drawer Marcus locked. She'd memorized the shape of the key. When she found the photo, her breath caught. Her mother, yes, but the man beside her there was something in his eyes, something that made Maya's stomach twist. She flipped it over. The word father screamed back at her. And in that moment, the calm of the past few weeks shattered. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just walked outside, sketchbook in hand, and disappeared down the street. It took Marcus and Clara 30 minutes to notice she was gone. Another 10 to realize the sketchbook was missing. Clara ran to the neighbors. Marcus grabbed the keys and drove every familiar route: a library, park, art center, but found nothing. When they returned home, Clara's voice shook. "We should have told her." Marcus clenched the steering wheel. "We were trying to protect her, but we didn't prepare her." Just before sundown, the phone rang. It was Miss Dottie from the library. "She's here," she said, sitting by the window, drawing. When they arrived, Maya was still there, legs curled under her, pencil smudges on her palms, sketchbook open across her knees. She didn't look up. Marcus knelt beside her. "Maya, I saw the photo," she said. Clara stepped forward. "Baby, we didn't want to hide it from you. We were trying to understand it ourselves." "Is he alive?" Maya asked. "We don't know," Marcus replied. "We haven't found any records." "Did he hurt her?" Marcus didn't answer right away, but Maya already knew. She saw it in the silence, the careful words. "I don't want to know him," she said. "You don't have to," Clara said softly. "You don't owe the past anything, but if you ever want answers, we'll find them. Together." Maya nodded slowly. Then she turned her sketchbook toward them. She had drawn the photo not perfectly, but with intention. Her mother, herself as a baby, and the man. But over his face, Maya had sketched a wall cracked and crumbling. Underneath, she had written one line: "He gave me blood, but not life." Marcus closed his eyes. That night, they burned the photograph in the fireplace. Not out of denial, but as a ritual of letting go. Maya stood in front of the flames, holding Clara's hand. "Can we paint my room this weekend?" she asked. "Any color you want," Clara said. "Yellow," Maya replied, "like light through stained glass." And for the first time in days, she smiled. Small, steady, because the wall wasn't just broken. It was beginning to fall. Saturday morning came with the scent of cinnamon rolls and the hum of a paint roller against drywall. Maya stood barefoot in the middle of her room, sleeves rolled up, holding a brush nearly half her size. The wall in front of her gleamed with new Hopia golden yellow, so warm it made the whole room glow, even before the sun reached the windows. Clara crouched next to her, trimming the corners with careful hands. "This is going to look like a sunrise," she said. Maya dipped her brush into the tray. "That's what I wanted. Something that feels like beginning again." Marcus popped his head through the doorway, a smudge of yellow on his cheek. "Y'all need reinforcements?" "We're building a sanctuary in here," Clara replied, smiling. "Only the brave are allowed." Maya turned to Marcus. "Can we put my drawings up when it's dry?" "Wherever you want. It's your world." By midday, the room looked transformed. Gone was the plain beige, the color of temporary. Now every wall sang with warmth. Maya walked the perimeter slowly, touching the corners as if sealing the light in place. "I think she would have liked it," she whispered. "She?" Clara asked. "My mama." Clara nodded and didn't push further. After lunch, Marcus handed Maya a manila envelope. "Sandra sent this. It's from the school district. They've accepted the transfer request." Maya sat on the couch and opened the papers carefully. A letter with school letterhead welcomed her to Cypress Ridge Elementary. Enclosed was a list of school supplies and a handwritten note from the principal. "We're glad to have you, Maya. Your art teacher, Mrs. Halbrook, already heard about your work. She's excited to meet you." "I've never had a teacher write to me before," Maya said. "Well, they clearly know what they're getting." Clara smiled. That evening, after dinner, Marcus pulled out a shoebox from his closet and placed it on the table. "What's that?" Maya asked. "It's called a memory box. My grandfather made it for me. I added to it through the year stick-it stubs, letters, old photos, things that reminded me who I was when things got confusing." He opened the box. Inside were small mementos, a rusted keychain from his first car, a faded photo of him as a boy beside a river, a folded note from Clara, yellowed with age. "I thought maybe we could make one for you." Maya looked at the objects as if they were sacred. She went to her room, returned with her sketchbook, and pulled out a single paga drawing she'd made the day after the court hearing. It showed a small house, bright yellow, with 3 windows and a tree beside it. In the window was a girl holding a pencil. On the sidewalk stood 2 figures with open arms. She placed the drawing into the empty shoebox. "That's where we start," she said. Marcus gently closed the lid. "That's the beginning of something strong." The next day, Clara surprised Maya with a new backpack, still with the tags on. It was navy blue, with sunflowers stitched along the zipper. Inside were colored pencils, a pencil case, notebooks, and a thermos. "It's not brand new," Clara admitted. "It used to be mine, but it's carried a lot of stories." Maya opened it, her fingers brushing the worn lining. "It's perfect." They spent Sunday evening preparing for the first day of school. Clara helped pack lunch turkey sandwich, apple slices, and a note that said, "Shine bright, love, Clara." Marcus braided Maya's hair, though he fumbled the ends. "That braid's doing its best," he muttered. "It's trying," Maya giggled. That night, as the sun dipped below the treetops, Maya stood in front of her newly painted wall, holding her framed drawing and the sunflower backpack. She whispered to herself, "Tomorrow, I step into the world again." She placed the drawing beside her bed, right under the window. When morning came, Maya was already awake. She dressed quickly, heart racing but steady. Marcus made pancakes, Clara poured orange juice, and when it was time to go, they walked her to the front gate. "You nervous?" Marcus asked. "A little." "That's okay," Clara said. "You've already done things much harder than this." At the school, kids swarmed the playground. Parents lingered near the entrance, and teachers called names. Maya stood still for a moment, her backpack secure, her sketchbook inside. Then a voice called out, "Maya Davis?" She turned. A tall woman with silver-streaked hair and paint smudges on her skirt stood by the doors. "I'm Mrs. Halbrook. Welcome to my world." Maya stepped forward, her eyes wide. "Do you really know about my drawings?" "I do, and I saved you a seat near the window. That's where the good ideas live." Maya looked back once. Marcus gave her a thumbs up. Clara blew her a kiss. She turned and walked into the building, not quickly, not slowly, but like someone who knew the ground beneath her feet was solid now. And for the first time, the world didn't feel like a place she had to survive. It felt like a place that might be ready to receive her. Maya's new classroom was bathed in warm, natural light. The walls were decorated with student artwork sunsets, rockets, hand-traced turkeys from last fall. A corner was filled with shelves of books and a beanbag chair shaped like a smiling frog. On the far side of the room, right next to the largest window, was an empty desk with a small name card that read, Maya Davis. Mrs. Halbrook smiled as Maya approached. Your spot. Feel free to make it your own. Maya sat, slowly placing her backpack beside her chair. She ran her fingers along the edge of the desk, feeling the carved initials from students before her, the quiet history of this place. It was comforting somehow knowing other kids had sat here, nervous and new, just like her. Around her, other students filtered in. Some stared, a few smiled. One girl with a wild mess of curls and a blue headband leaned over from the next desk. Hi, I'm Tasha. I like your backpack. Maya looked down at the sunflowers and smiled. Thanks. It was my mom's. Kind of. That's cool, Tasha replied. I use my brother's old lunchbox. It smells like pickles. Maya laughed. That's unfortunate. They were still giggling when Mrs. Halbrook clapped her hands once. Okay, everyone, let's begin. Today we're starting something special, my story in pictures. Each of you will create a small booklet this week. It can be drawings, poems, even just colors. I want to know what makes you. You. The word story echoed in Maya's ears. She opened her sketchbook slowly. The page was blank. Not out of fear but potential. She started with a line, then another. Soon, a small house appeared in the drawing, nestled under a big tree. The front door was wide open. Inside, the faint shape of a girl curled on the couch, holding a pencil. By recess, the first few pages of Maya's story were done. Outside, the sun was warm, and the air smelled like cut grass. Maya and Tasha walked together to the swings. You draw all the time? Tasha asked. Mostly when I need to breathe, Maya said. Tasha tilted her head. You don't breathe other times? Not always, but I'm learning. Tasha didn't laugh or tease. She just nodded, as if she understood something without needing all the words. The bell rang, and they headed back inside. Later that day, as dismissal approached, Maya noticed a boy staring at her from across the room. He sat alone, doodling circles on his paper. He hadn't spoken all day. When the bell rang, Maya walked past his desk. Your circles look like sound waves. The boy looked up. They are. My dad's a musician, but he's in prison now. Maya paused. I carry my mom in a jar sometimes. He blinked. Like, her ashes? Yeah, she said simply. The boy nodded. I'm Logan. Maya. They didn't say more. But something unspoken passed between them, a fragile thread of shared understanding. Back home, Maya burst through the door, dropping her backpack in the hallway. How'd it go? Marcus called from the kitchen. I made 2 friends and told one boy about the urn, she said. And nobody thought I was weird. Clara peeked out from the dining room. That's a good day. It was a real day, Maya replied. That night, she added a new drawing to her sketchbook, her seat by the window, with herself, Tasha, and Logan drawn in bright, simple lines. In the background, Mrs. Halbrook stood holding a paper sun. On Saturday, Marcus took Maya to the art supply store in the city. It was a place she'd only seen once before, but it felt like walking into a candy store for the first time. Rows of colored pencils, graphite sets, canvas pads, brushes, and markers filled every aisle. You can pick 3 things, Marcus said. She stared at him. 3 things total? He laughed. 3 things this trip. She chose a new set of charcoal pencils, a small watercolor set, and a journal with a leather cover. That last one, Marcus said, looks like it belongs in a movie. It's for real things, Maya whispered. The kind I don't want to forget. Back at home, she began to write in the journal for the first Timino drawings this time. Just thoughts. Today I felt like I belonged somewhere. Not everywhere, but here. That's enough. I think there are 2 kinds of quiet. The scary kind and the safe kind. Clara's house has the safe kind. I'm not afraid of being sad anymore. I think it just means something real happened. She placed the journal beside the memory box and added a new item. The school ID card they'd given her that morning. Her name, her photo, her grade. It felt official, and for the first time, it didn't feel like pretending. Later that evening, as Marcus sat on the porch and Clara read in her armchair, Maya curled up on the rug beside the coffee table, sketching the sky through the front window. The light outside dimmed, casting golden shadows across the floor. Clara looked up. "What ya drawing now, baby?" "Us," Maya said, "but not sitting still. Us walking, like forward." Marcus nodded slowly. "That's a good direction." Maya smiled. "It's the only one I like now." And in that moment, surrounded by warm light, soft voices, and safe silence, she felt something settle in her chest, not the weight of grief, but the anchor of belonging. The past hadn't vanished, but the future was starting to speak louder. The chill of early autumn crept in slowly mornings, now came with fog on the windows and the faint smell of burning leaves drifting from nearby yards. Maya had taken to wearing one of Clara's old scarves wrapped twice around her neck, even when the sun was out. "It feels like a hug," she said, when Marcus teased her about it. School had become more than a routine. It had become a rhythm, a place where Maya's voice grew stronger each day. Mrs. Halbrook had displayed Maya's My Story in Pictures project on the wall beside the reading nook, and more than once, Maya caught other students quietly studying her drawings like they were museum pieces. At home, things were quieter in a different way. Clara had taken on more shifts at the church food pantry, and Marcus had begun teaching art classes once a week at the local community center. Maya often stayed up sketching by the living room window, her drawings growing more complex layers of memory, imagination, and something else taking shape. One Thursday afternoon, a letter arrived in the mailbox. Maya noticed the return address before Clara or Marcus had a chance. It was postmarked from a correctional facility 2 counties over. Marcus opened the envelope in the kitchen, reading silently while Maya stirred a pot of chili beside Clara. "Who's it from?" Clara asked, drying a plate. Marcus hesitated. Then he looked up. "It's from him." Maya's hand stopped moving. Her eyes remained on the pot, but her whole body stilled. "What does it say?" she asked. Marcus read aloud, his voice even. "To whoever is reading this, I'm writing because I found out a little girl named Maya Davis might be my daughter. I don't know if this is true, but I do know I loved her mother once. We weren't good to each other. I wasn't good for her, but I never stopped thinking about the baby she carried." He paused. Maya said nothing. It continued. "I don't expect forgiveness or connection. I just wanted to leave something behind that wasn't silence. If she ever wants to know more, I'll tell her everything. If not, that's okay. I'm not asking to be a father now. I just want her to know she wasn't forgotten." Marcus folded the letter quietly and set it on the table. Maya turned from the stove and walked to the back porch, scarf still wrapped tightly. The breeze tugged at the fabric as she stared out at the tree line, bare branches scratching at the sky. Marcus followed, standing a few feet behind her. "You don't have to respond," he said softly. "There's no pressure." "I don't hate him," she said. Marcus nodded. "But I don't want him in here," she said, pressing a hand to her chest. "Not yet." "That's fair." She turned. "Will you keep the letter for me?" "Of course." That night, after dinner, Maya pulled out her sketchbook and began a new piece. It wasn't of people or places. It was just a series of doors, some open, some closed, some cracked just enough to let the light in. She didn't explain it, but Marcus and Clara understood. The following weekend, Maya and Clara visited the farmer's market together. It had become their quiet tradition, just the two of them wandering between booths, picking up honeycomb soap and hand-knit mittens, sampling kettle corn and apple slices. At one booth, Clara introduced Maya to a woman named Mrs. Hadley, who sold pressed flower bookmarks and old paperback novels. "She knew your mama a little," Clara said gently. "From back when Camille worked at the diner near the train station." Mrs. Hadley's eyes softened as she looked at Maya. "You've got her eyes, but you stand straighter than she did." Maya tilted her head. "Was she happy then?" "Sometimes," Mrs. Hadley said. "She loved watching the trains go by. Said she used to dream about putting you on one and riding all the way west. Till the sky changed colors," she said. Maya imagined it. Her mama holding her close on a rattling train. The world rolling past in colors they'd never seen before. "She wanted better for you," Mrs. Hadley added. "She gave it to me," Maya replied. "She just didn't know how." That evening, Maya wrote a letter, not to her father, not to anyone living. She wrote to her mother, "Dear Mama, today someone told me you like trains. I do too. I think they're like stories that never stop moving. I'm not mad anymore. I still miss you every day. But I think you're proud of me. I'm starting to be proud of me too. Love, Maya. She folded the letter and placed it inside her journal, right behind the page of the open door. Then she walked out to the backyard, where Marcus was raking leaves into a giant pile. Can I jump in? Marcus grinned. That's why I make the pile. Maya backed up, ran, and launched herself into the crisp heap of red and gold. Leaves flew everywhere as she laughed, arms flung wide. Clara watched from the porch, smiling, a cup of tea warming her hands. Maya sat up, leaves in her hair. I think, she said, I'm going to draw something that feels like this. Messy? Marcus teased. No, she said. Alive. And in that moment, surrounded by rustling trees, laughter, and the scent of something turning toward winter, Maya felt something shift, not broken, not healed, but growing. And that was enough. It was the first truly cold morning of the season when the envelope arrived thicker than most, addressed by hand, and sealed with a small sticker in the shape of a sunflower. Clara found it on the porch, tucked beneath the corner of the doormat, as if someone hadn't wanted to disturb them. She called out to Marcus and Maya from the kitchen. Mail's here, and someone sent you something special. Maya, still in her flannel pajamas, walked over, holding a mug of hot cocoa Marcus had made just the way she liked. 2 marshmallows, not 3. Clara handed her the envelope. From the art center, she guessed, tapping the corner. Look at the stamp. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she opened it. Inside was a formal invitation printed on cream cardstock with a red and gold border. The heading read, Voices in Color, a youth art exhibition, honoring stories of belonging and becoming. Below that, in bold script, we are honored to feature the work of Maya Davis, age 11, whose piece, The Door I Drew Myself, will be showcased as part of our opening night. For a moment, Maya just stared at the words, mouth slightly open. They chose it, she whispered. They did, Marcus said, placing a hand on her shoulder. Clara beamed. That's not just a drawing, honey. That's a declaration. The exhibition was 2 weeks away. In the days that followed, the house buzzed with quiet excitement. Marcus helped Maya select a frame for her piece of simple, walnut wood with a soft matte finish. Clara took her shopping for a dress, gently guiding her toward a pale yellow one that reminded Maya of sunrise and safety. At school, word spread quickly. Mrs. Halbrook made a special announcement during art class, and Maya was too stunned to speak, cheeks glowing red beneath the praise. Tasha grabbed her hand at recess and whispered, I knew it. You're the real deal. On the night of the event, the town art center was lit from within like a lantern. The air outside was brisk, but inside it was all warmth music from a string trio, the clink of glasses filled with cider, and the soft murmur of strangers admiring brushstrokes and shadows. Maya stood just inside the entrance, eyes wide, her sketchbook clutched to her chest even though she didn't plan to draw tonight. It was a part of her now like breath, like memory. Her piece hung in the far room, under a light that made the colors glow. People gathered around it, murmuring appreciatively. Some took photos, others simply stared. When Maya stepped into the room, the small crowd parted naturally, leaving space for her to approach her own work. The drawing was simple, but layered 5 doors, each slightly ajar. Behind each one was a different version of herself, one with a backpack, one with a key in her hand, one crying, one laughing, and one simply standing tall. Beneath it, the title was written in Maya's own hand, The Door I Drew Myself. A woman approached her, dressed in a dark coat and glasses that gleamed in the gallery lights. Are you the artist? She asked. Maya nodded shyly. The woman smiled. I'm a counselor at a youth shelter across town. I brought 2 of my girls here tonight. They stood in front of your piece for 15 minutes. One of them said, That looks like how it feels inside my chest. Maya's throat tightened. Thank you for telling me. Later, a man approached tall, with deep-set eyes and a camera slung around his neck. I'm with the local Times, he said. Mind if I ask what inspired this? Maya glanced at Marcus and Clara, standing a few feet away. She took a breath. Everyone talks about the doors they open for you, she said. But nobody tells you that sometimes you have to draw your own first. The reporter blinked, then he nodded. That's the headline. Near the end of the evening, As the last visitors trickled out and the music faded, Maya walked the gallery one last time. She paused at each piece, noting the color choices, the lines, the emotion behind every brushstroke. When she returned to her own drawing, she found Logan standing in front of it. "I didn't know you were coming," she said. "My grandma saw the flyer at church," he replied. "She dragged me." They stood in silence for a moment. "She'd be proud," Logan said. "Who?" Maya asked. "Your mom. My dad. Whoever left something behind that we had to figure out." Maya nodded slowly. "Maybe they gave us more than they knew." As the lights dimmed, Clara wrapped Maya's scarf around her neck and kissed the top of her head. Marcus held the framed drawing under his arm, carefully wrapped for the walk to the car. In the quiet ride home, Maya stared out the window, watching the town pass by under the stars. The streets looked different now, familiar, but also full of promise. When they reached home, Clara placed the framed drawing above the fireplace. "It belongs here," she said. Maya stood back and looked at it, really looked. "It does," she whispered. And for the first time, she felt the weight of being seen not just as a survivor, not just as someone who had made it through, but as someone who had created something beautiful from the journey. Because sometimes, the act of becoming doesn't come with fanfare or grand declarations. Sometimes, it arrives quietly, wrapped in warmth and framed in the golden light of a door you drew yourself. Snow fell in soft, steady waves, covering the neighborhood in a hush that made even car horns seem gentle. Maya pressed her forehead to the frosted window, watching as the world turned white inch by inch. It was the first real snowfall of the season, and everything outside looked like it had been dipped in quiet. Clara entered the living room carrying a folded quilt. "It's starting to stick. Might be a snow day tomorrow." Maya turned, a hopeful grin spreading across her face. "Can we build a snow fort?" "If Marcus can find his gloves," Clara said with a wink. Maya returned to the couch and pulled the quilt over her legs. She'd been sketching again this time, not doors or trees, but people. The latest was a portrait of Marcus, caught mid-laugh, one hand holding a mixing bowl. Next to it, a drawing of Clara reading by lamplight, her glasses slipping slightly down her nose. Outside, the doorbell rang, a sharp sound against the snowy silence. Marcus called out from the kitchen, "I'll get it." Moments later, he walked into the room holding a small package, wrapped in plain brown paper with a white envelope taped to the top. "It's for you," he said, handing it to Maya. Same handwriting as the prison letter. Clara's face stiffened slightly. "Are you okay opening it?" Maya nodded. Her hands were steady as she peeled away the tape and slid the envelope free. Inside was a letter, short and written in blocky script. "I don't expect anything back. I just wanted you to have this. It's the only thing I ever made that mattered. Joe." Beneath the letter, inside the package, was a small, hand-carved wooden figure, little girl sitting cross-legged, holding a sketchbook. The craftsmanship was rough but thoughtful. Her hair was textured in tiny carved braids. The figure looked down, not sad, but thoughtful. Maya held the figure in her palm. "He made this?" she asked. Marcus nodded. "Looks like it. I didn't think he remembered me." "You're not easy to forget," Clara said gently. Maya placed the figure on the mantel, beside the framed drawing from the exhibit. Then she looked at it for a long time. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. "I don't want to forgive him," she said at last. "But I don't want to be angry forever either." "You don't have to decide today," Marcus said, "or even ever. Forgiveness isn't a door. It's more like weather. It changes." Later that evening, as the snow continued to fall, Maya sat at the kitchen table and wrote a letter not to Joe, but for herself. A way to speak things she didn't yet have the courage to send. "You gave me nothing I could use, but now I have more than I need. I'm learning how to build from the scraps. You were a crack in the foundation, but the house is still standing." She folded the letter and tucked it into the back of her journal. Over the next few days, the snow piled high, school was canceled, and the town moved slowly. Maya and Marcus built the snow fort she'd dreamed of, complete, with a tiny art gallery of snow carvings lining the inside. Clara brought out hot chocolate in thermoses and pretended to be a museum patron. "This one," she said, pointing at a lopsided snow bunny, "is deeply symbolic." Maya laughed until she fell over, snow puffing up around her like dust. That night, Maya helped Clara bake cornbread for the neighbors. It had become a small tradition the Lanes made extras during storms, and Maya delivered them in a basket with a note card signed, "From the Yellow House." As they walked to Mrs. Franklin's porch 2 houses down, Maya looked up at the stars clear and bright above the cold roofs. "Do you think my mom would have liked this?" she asked. "This snow, or this life?" Clara asked. "Both." Clara tucked a gloved hand into hers. "I think she would have loved seeing you laugh like you did earlier." Maya nodded. "I think so too." Back home, Maya climbed into bed early. The room was warm, her yellow walls glowing softly in the lamplight. She reached under her pillow and pulled out the memory box. Inside, the wooden figure sat beside the folded fair photo strip, the school ID card, the pressed leaf she'd picked up during a walk with Marcus, and the little note Clara had put in her lunchbox. "Shine bright." She touched each one, gently, and then added a new item, a snowflake she'd pressed between 2 sheets of wax paper earlier that day. The collection wasn't just hers anymore. It was hers and Camille's, hers and Marcus's, hers and Clara's, and maybe, someday, even hers and Joe's. Before she fell asleep, Maya picked up her sketchbook and began a new drawing. This one showed a snow-covered house, warm light pouring from the windows, and 3 figures in the yardone holding a snow shovel, one with a tray of cocoa, and one reaching her hands up toward the stars. In the corner of the page, she wrote a single word, "Becoming." And for the first time, she didn't feel like she was searching for who she was. She felt like she was arriving. Spring returned with shy green buds and the smell of wet soil. It came slowly, peeling back winter layer by layer, revealing the quiet changes that had taken root beneath snow and silence. The tree outside Maya's window had begun to bloom pale pink blossoms, dusting the branches like hope whispered in color. Maya stood at the window each morning now, tracing the changes in her sketchbook. She'd started a new series titled, "What I Didn't Know I Was Growing." Each page captured something once hidden: a bird's nest in the gutter, a new freckle on her cheek, the softening in Clara's laugh. One Saturday morning, Clara brought an envelope to the breakfast table, light blue, hand-addressed, with a familiar return name in the corner, Joseph Arnold. Maya paused mid-bite. She didn't reach for it immediately. "He wrote again," Clara said, setting it down gently beside her plate. Marcus looked up from the paper. "No pressure." Maya nodded, breathing in slowly through her nose. Then, with careful fingers, she opened it. Inside was a letter and a photograph. The letter was short. "I saw your picture in the community center newsletter. The one with the doors. I never knew someone could say that much with just pencil and paper. You don't owe me a reply. But seeing your name, knowing you've made something good out of what I left behind, makes me want to be less ashamed. I'm taking a workshop inside, learning woodwork better. They say you can build things with patience and tools. I'm starting with both. Thank you for being more than I ever was. Joe." Maya picked up the photograph. It was of a small Carvinga door, open just a crack, with light streaming through, rough but intentional. The caption on the back read, "For the girl who found her own way out." She sat silently, looking at it. "Do you want to write him?" Marcus asked after a while. "I don't think I need to," Maya said. "I think he heard me already." She placed the photo in her memory box, between the figure he'd carved and the first letter he sent. Then she picked up her cocoa and took a long sip. That evening, the 3 of them walked down to the community center for Maya's second art exhibit. This one was called Roots and Wings. It featured work by kids from across the district, each one a reflection on identity, belonging, and transformation. Maya's piece was front and center. It showed a sapling growing through concrete, its roots weaving around cracks, lifting the sidewalk, bending but not breaking. As people milled around the gallery, Maya watched quietly. A woman with a toddler in her arms stopped in front of her drawing. "Do you know who made this?" she asked her child, pointing. Maya smiled and stepped forward. "I did." The woman turned, surprised. "It's beautiful. My son, he's just started drawing. I hope one day he makes something that tells a story." Maya knelt slightly. "What's his name?" "Caleb." Maya handed Caleb one of the postcards the gallery had made of her work. "Then here's your first collector's piece." Caleb took it with wide eyes, and the woman mouthed, "Thank you," with quiet wonder. Later, during the closing remarks, Maya was invited to speak. She hadn't planned anything, but as she walked to the small microphone, her steps were steady. "I used to think that stories had to begin with pain," she said. "And maybe some do, but that doesn't mean they have to end there. Mine started with a goodbye I didn't understand. But now, it's made its way to people I hadn't met yet, people who became family." She looked at Marcus and Clara, who stood side by side, proud and teary-eyed. "I think we all have cracks," Maya continued. "But sometimes, that's how the light finds us. And when it does, we get to choose what we do with it. I chose to draw. Maybe you'll choose to write, or dance, or sing. But whatever it is, make it yours. Make it real." The room was still for a heartbeat. Then applause rose like a wave, warm, steady, full. That night, back home, Marcus lit the fireplace. Clara made tea, and Maya curled on the couch with her sketchbook in her lap. She opened to a blank page and drew a house. But not her house. This one had no walls, just an open roof. A tree grew from the center, its branches cradling stars. Around the edges, she drew people figures from memory, from her life, from her heart. Camille, young and smiling, holding baby Maya. Logan, holding a guitar. Mrs. Halbrook. Tasha, dancing. Caleb, waving his postcard. And Clara and Marcus standing side by side, hands joined. In the center, beneath the tree, Maya drew herself. Not small, not scared, but strong, rooted, reaching. She closed the sketchbook slowly, placed it beside her on the couch, and leaned into Clara's shoulder. Marcus asked softly, "What's the title?" Maya looked into the firelight and whispered, "This is where I begin." And outside, the world wide open, unwritten, and full of light. The story of Maya teaches us that healing does not come all at once, but through small acts of courage, kindness, and the willingness to create something beautiful from pain. It reminds us that family can be chosen, that love can be rebuilt, and that every crack in our hearts can let the light in if we let it. Through Maya's journey, we learn that the power to begin again, to redefine who we are, lies within us. No matter how broken the past, the future is still ours to shape with grace, with hope, and with art.